She was an Italian woman who lived during the time of Leonardo da Vinci, François Rabelais, and Christopher Columbus. She neither painted nor wrote novels or discovered new lands, and yet she was remembered for centuries. The famous series, The Borgias, presents Lucrezia in a way that has little to do with reality, more a retelling of period gossip than a true portrait. Lucrezia gained wide fame in 1833 thanks to Victor Hugo's play bearing her name. With the help of the playwright, stories of her countless crimes took root in popular imagination and continue to be reproduced in films and television shows. But Lucrezia Borgia was far from the depraved villainess people prefer to see in her. She was a woman who managed to survive not just a den of snakes, but a family that, during the Renaissance, came to symbolize just that, and this made her life story all the more compelling. Later, Alexander VI appointed Lucrezia governor of the cities of Spoleto and Foligno, positions normally held by men with cardinal rank. According to historical records, Lucrezia showed remarkable capabilities. For instance, when a conflict between Terni and Spoleto threatened to escalate into war, she acted as a goodwill envoy and reconciled the two sides. Clearly, Alexander VI entrusted her with delicate political missions. She even answered correspondence in the papal office during his absence. Such masculine skills inevitably gave rise to slander born of envy. After 4 years, the Sforza family lost political influence, and the marriage became useless to the Borgias. Giovanni's relations with them soured, especially after he allegedly acted as a spy for his Milanese relatives. Alexander VI began searching for a new husband for Lucrezia and considered ways to dissolve the current marriage. According to one version, Lucrezia warned Giovanni of an assassination plot and he fled to Pesaro. Alexander VI convinced the Sforzas to agree to a divorce, citing Giovanni's impotence. Lucrezia herself testified that the marriage had never been consummated, the only acceptable reason for annulment. Giovanni, however, refused the divorce. Giovanni Sforza was accused of defaming his wife. He was offered the chance to publicly demonstrate marital intimacy with her in front of witnesses, but he refused. His relatives gave him an ultimatum. Either he accepted Pope Alexander II's proposition, or they would withdraw their protection. Having no choice, in 1497 Giovanni returned to Rome and signed a sworn declaration before witnesses that he was sexually impotent. The marriage was officially annulled. Humiliated, Giovanni was further dishonored when it was claimed that his deceased first wife had been pregnant by a lover, not him. Devastated and disgraced across Italy by the Borgia family, Giovanni Sforza began to spread rumors of incest between Lucrezia Borgia and her father. A diplomat quoted him, "When His Holiness asked whether it was true that the Pope believed him incapable of fulfilling his marital duties, and that his marriage to Lucrezia was essentially a sham, he firmly denied it. He had enjoyed frequent intimacy with his wife, but the Pope took her from him for his own use." After Giovanni's statement, rumors of incest circulated widely, irreparably damaging the Borgia's reputation. Legends claim that either the Pope or his daughter Lucrezia possessed a key with a handle tipped by a barely visible needle. Guests were asked to use it to open a chamber housing art. A slight scratch on the skin was enough for a fatal dose of poison. Lucrezia was also said to own a needle with a hollow channel for poison, which allowed her to kill someone in a crowd undetected. However, no one was ever caught witnessing her commit such a crime. After the divorce, Lucrezia left the Vatican and, accompanied by her servants, withdrew to the Dominican convent of San Sisto. No one knows her true feelings at that time, but it seems she harbored internal protest. A contemporary noted she left her father like an unwelcome guest, suggesting a falling out with the pontiff. By 1498, as the divorce proceedings were underway, contradictory rumors spread that Lucrezia had secretly given birth to a child within the convent walls. The rumored father was Pedro Calderón, an administrator of the papal court. His duties included delivering correspondence between Lucrezia and her father, and since letters were exchanged nearly daily, he saw her frequently. Had the scandalous affair been proven, Lucrezia's future would have been ruined, and no man would have dared marry her again. Pedro was later found dead, allegedly stabbed with a dagger, in a vast palace near Pope Alexander VI. However, the Pope claimed in writing that Calderón had voluntarily jumped into the Tiber River. That same spring, a baby named Giovanni appeared in the Borgia household. Within 3 years, 2 papal bulls were issued. One declared Giovanni the son of Cesare Borgia by an unknown woman. The other, secret, revealed that he was in fact the Pope's own son. This secret bull was discovered among Lucrezia's papers after her death. Lucrezia herself was never mentioned, but it's possible that Giovanni was her child, born of a murdered lover. After Alexander VI's death, Giovanni came to live with Lucrezia and her third husband, who raised him as her brother. The fact that her husband, Duke of Ferrara, treated Giovanni as her sibling suggests he might truly have been the Pope's child from an unknown mother. If Lucrezia had borne a child, it might have died in infancy, been stillborn, or existed only in rumor. In connection with these papal bulls, accusations spread not only of incestuous relations between Lucrezia Borgia and her father, originally made by her first husband Giovanni Sforza, but also accusations of relations between Lucrezia and 2 of her own brothers. Later, a hostile epigram circulated, supposedly written by one of her enemies, stating, "Lucrezia was born in 1480. Her father was the powerful cardinal and future Pope Rodrigo Borgia. Her mother was his mistress, Vannozza de Catane." This relationship brought Lucrezia considerable advantages. She became a wealthy woman, owning inns in Rome's affluent districts. While maintaining ties with the cardinal, Vannozza married twice. In addition to Lucrezia, she bore him 2 older sons, Cesare and Juan. The future pope had 8 children by various women, but these 3 were his favorites. Surviving letters suggest that Lucrezia's mother was ambitious and willing to do anything for social standing, with little affection for her children, except for her eldest, Cesare. She treated Lucrezia rather coldly. Here lies Lucrezia, daughter, wife, and daughter-in-law of Alexander. A year after divorcing Count Sforza, Lucrezia was married off to Alfonso of Aragon, Duke of Bisceglie, from the reigning Neapolitan house. The Borgia clan hoped this union would initiate a friendship between 2 powerful families and eventually lead to an even more advantageous marriage for Lucrezia's older brother, Cesare, with Charlotte, the legitimate daughter of the Neapolitan monarch. The main goal was to unite against their common enemy, France. However, the Borgia plan failed. Charlotte flatly refused to marry Cesare, and persuading her was impossible. The Pope's family decided to switch sides politically. In 1500, Cesare suddenly married Charlotte of Albret, sister of King John III of Navarre. Thus, the Borgia relationship with France softened, but Naples instantly became the Pope's enemy. Beyond the political prospect of allying with the Aragonese dynasty, marriage to the 17-year-old illegitimate son of King Alfonso II made Lucrezia the mistress of a fortune any European princess would envy. The young couple settled together. It is known that Lucrezia lived in peace and harmony with Alfonso and seemed very attached to him. She gave birth to a son, Rodrigo. The Pope's plans to annex Naples to the Roman holdings failed. He declared Alfonso a traitor. Historical chronicles differ on Alfonso's tragic fate. One version says Alfonso was wounded and suspected an assassination attempt by Lucrezia's brother Cesare, who tried but failed to kill him. Cesare quarreled with Alfonso at a family gathering and stabbed him with a dagger. Another version says Cesare sent hired assassins, but the attempt failed. Lucrezia cared for Alfonso as he recovered, but he never fully regained health. Cesare eventually burst into Alfonso's chambers, scattered the guards, and strangled him with his own hands. A contemporary wrote that since Alfonso refused to die from his wounds, he was strangled in his own bed. Rumors spread that Cesare killed his sister's husband not only because Alfonso opposed Cesare's alliance with France, but also because Alfonso occupied the place in Lucrezia's heart that had previously belonged to Cesare. Alfonso's death deeply shocked Lucrezia. According to her former tutor, who witnessed both attacks, she filled the palace halls with moans, cries, and lamentations. Soon she was sent with her young son to the provinces. She later forgave her father and brother and occasionally wrote them letters, always signing as your boundless daughter. Meanwhile, her father and brother searched for Lucrezia's third husband to fulfill their political ambitions. Finally, an ideal candidate was found, 24-year-old widower Alfonso d'Este, eldest son and heir of the Duke of Ferrara, who had close friendly ties with France. This marriage also had political meaning. Ferrara lay in northern Italy while Cesare was occupied with conquering cities, so the alliance was beneficial. Lucrezia was 12 when her father became pope, taking the name Alexander VI, not coincidentally, for he admired Alexander the Great. He named his son Cesare in memory of Caesar, and his daughter Lucrezia, after the Roman matron who chose death over the shame of rape. Alexander VI was seen as the head of executive power, capable of guiding the church through perilous times. One historian described his talents as follows. Alexander VI possessed exceptional cunning and foresight, remarkable persuasive abilities, and a knack for escaping the direst of situations. Yet these traits were considered vices, manifested in shameless behavior, deceit, greed, insatiable ambition, barbaric cruelty, and unquenchable lust. It is no surprise he fathered so many children. Initially, Alfonso and his father refused the marriage due to Lucrezia's bad reputation. Their envoy wrote how she had slandered her first husband and bore a child out of wedlock. But under pressure from King Louis XV of France, and because of a large dowry of 100,000 ducats, they agreed. Madonna Lucrezia was described by the new Ferrara ambassador to the Duke as extremely intelligent, beautiful, and exceptionally gracious. She was modest, with a tender heart and excellent manners. Moreover, she was truly devout and a Christian. Her beauty was striking, but her charming manners impressed even more. In short, her character was such that no hint of sinfulness could be found in her. In 1501, Rodrigo, the son from her second husband, arrived with a splendid retinue. Although Lucrezia was usually cautious about new family ties, she constantly cared for him during their separation. Records of Lucrezia's expenses reveal the gifts she gave the young prince. When Rodrigo turned 9, together with Isabella of Aragon, she chose a tutor for him and gifted him a suitable outfit adorned with velvet and black satin ribbons, along with a vast collection of new books. She always hoped to bring Rodrigo to Ferrara, but he died of illness at the age of 13. She also aided the children of her brother Cesare, and her care helped preserve their lives. Although her husband's family initially received Lucrezia reluctantly, she gradually won the hearts of her father-in-law and husband. Relatives of her husband spoke respectfully of her, and even tried to assist Cesare when he was imprisoned by the King of Spain. Lucrezia was pregnant with Alfonso several times, but only 4 children survived. After the death of Pope Alexander VI in 1503, their marriage lost its political significance, but Alfonso made no attempt to discard his wife. In early 1503, Lucrezia met the philosopher Pietro Bembo, and they began a long and tender correspondence, exchanging poems and portraits. The Milanese Library holds their letters in Italian and Spanish, as well as a lock of beautiful blonde hair. Clearly from the letter to which Bembo replied, "I am delighted that each day you find new ways to further ignite my passion, as you did today with what recently adorned your dazzling forehead." From late 1503, they never met again. It is quite possible there was no actual relationship between them, and Lucrezia was simply the poet's ideal beloved. Thanks to this romantic adventure with Bembo, Lucrezia earned an honorable place in the refined culture of Savoy. Despite accusations of a love affair with her brother-in-law, Francesco Gonzaga, Marquis of Mantua, their correspondence lasted until Francesco's death. Lucrezia's husband was very jealous and aware of his wife's friendly relations with Gonzaga, but was assured there was nothing to fear, as Gonzaga had become impotent due to syphilis. Their letters were destroyed, and historians today do not know whether the love was platonic or physical. Lucrezia was a patron of artists, and Bembo considered her one of the most enlightened. When Alfonso was away on business or war, he confidently left the duchy's governance to his wife, who helped the council of 10 citizens. The duke's relatives persistently demanded Lucrezia's resignation. After Pope Alexander VI's death, people recognized Lucrezia as a ruler worthy to rival the Queen of France. She was a devoted mother and wife, and a fine lady of Ferrara, who had become more religious, wearing thin shirts and diligently attending church. Her children grew up in respectable conditions and received proper education. Lucrezia remained admired by the people of Ferrara. Nonetheless, it is important to mention this pontiff's good deeds. It was Alexander VI who established the tradition of patronage during the High Renaissance, transforming Rome and the Vatican into an open-air museum. He supported such geniuses as Michelangelo and Raphael, and was responsible for restoring and maintaining the University of Rome. But his virtuous acts ended there. Under Alexander VI, the Apostolic Palace in the Vatican became a den of debauchery, the likes of which the Vatican had never seen, before or since. In 1518, at the age of 77, Lucrezia's mother, Rosa de' Rossi, passed away. After the deaths of Alexander VI, her lover and father of her children, Lucrezia managed to earn widespread respect and bequeathed all her wealth to churches, hospitals, and poor children. Lucrezia was unable to say goodbye to her mother as she was expecting a child. Her pregnancy was very difficult. She was not yet 40 and her strength was nearly gone. Her daughter died immediately after baptism, and Lucrezia developed puerperal fever. She received full absolution of sins from Pope Leo VI. For 10 days, her husband, with whom she had shared 17 years of joy and suffering, never left her bedside. Lucrezia Borgia died on June 24, 1519, and was buried in the family tomb. Alfonso wrote to his nephew about how hard it was for him to part with his dear and gentle companion, saying she was dear to him and beloved for her virtues and tenderness that united them. Little is known about Lucrezia's childhood, as Rodrigo initially sought to keep his illegitimate family secret. The central figure in her life was her father, and her best friend was her older brother Cesare. Their love and loyalty to one another were so strong that people, including their own father, suspected incest and even murder born of jealousy, especially regarding the death of their younger brother Giovanni. The accusation of incest is highly doubtful, as such rumors were a favorite theme of Italian pamphleteers. Lucrezia Borgia was an unusually well-educated woman for her time. While most women were taught only scripture by nuns, Lucrezia spoke fluent Italian, Catalan, and French, and had a solid grasp of Latin. She even composed poetry in these languages and understood Greek. She had been trained in the art of rhetoric, could hold refined conversation, and loved music, Spanish and Italian poetry, and the works of Dante and Petrarch. Lucrezia Borgia, as befit a member of the upper class, had mastered the art of dancing. Her success at court was guaranteed, but no one could have foreseen the tragedies that would follow. At just 13, the daughter of the head of the Vatican became a coveted prize for powerful men surrounding her. Her father knew this well. Many sought to gain favor with the Pope through his daughter, and he allowed them to believe they had a chance. Even the King of Naples was prepared to fight for her hand, noted Cardinal Ascanio Sforza. Lucrezia was married 3 times. As an obedient daughter and sister, she followed the will of Rodrigo and Cesare, especially when these marriages served diplomatic purposes. She seemed to regard these changes with indifference. After her first marriage, she became the Countess of Pesaro. Despite many suitors, Alexander VI chose Giovanni Sforza, a 26-year-old widower and nephew of Cardinal Ascanio Sforza. Their grand wedding took place in the summer of 1493. Lucrezia's opinion was never sought. She had grown up in a world where male dominance was taken for granted. "Anyone who wishes to act freely should not be born a woman," wrote a contemporary from the Medici family. Giovanni Sforza was handsome and well-connected, but entirely dependent on his powerful Milanese relatives. Like Lucrezia, he had no choice in marriage. The wedding night did not take place because the Pope delayed the official announcement, possibly due to Lucrezia's young age, or because a previous fiancé also came to Rome to claim her. At 14, Lucrezia moved in with her husband. Their relationship was difficult. When Giovanni was away, she lived in Pesaro. When he visited Pesaro, she returned to Rome. Still, Giovanni valued the marriage, as Lucrezia was his link to the Pope. He boasted to the ambassador of Bragnolo, "In my home, I have someone with access to the pontiff, none more so than my wife. Everyone says she has immense influence and is exceptionally intelligent for her